everybody. Welcome to August. We're going to be talking about the upcoming astrology for August. I'm here, Starlene Breiter, with Metheny, and this is our monthly live. I see that there's some people already here waiting for us. Thanks for coming to our live. So what's going on, Mark? How are you doing?
Neptune's on my sun, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably a lot.
No idea what planet I'm on or what year it is, or
yeah, and my it's aspecting my Saturn too. Yeah, so that's fun stuff. Yeah. Very. Have you been trying to keep your feet on the ground with that one?
trying to keep my head below water. It's my Pisces at 29 Neptune, or Neptune at 29 Pisces joke.
Yes, exactly. But we're going to be having a little bit of that Neptune back and forth for a while now. So that's a good thing. And also an intense thing, because then it moves into Aries. And when does it move into Aries? What month is that? When it finally, is it next year when it finally goes into Aries?
Oh, yeah. So this little thing is not really complete until spring of 2026, but next year we'll have Neptune will move in to Aries, as will Saturn in the middle of next year. They'll both jump into Aries for a little while, but then the last gasp there of Saturn and Neptune will be in 2026, where they're both at like 29 Pisces. And so there's no actual conjunction of Saturn and Neptune at 29 Pisces, but they're aspecting each other pretty much like for like 15 months. Well, no, longer than that. The actual conjunction is at 0 Aries in like the middle of 2026. But they're within orb. We got like 18 months where they're like in orb of each other. And that kind of starts like early next year. Like once we get into February of next year, they're within 10 degrees of each other, and then it'll just keep tightening after that.
Yeah,
until we all break.
Yeah, the outer planets are messing with us. We got Pluto right there at 0 degrees Aquarius. Oh well, it's going back into Capricorn, but and then Neptune moving into Aries. So it's a shift for sure. It's a shift on a global mundane level and change, but it's also a shift in on a personal level, we're changing. So tell us what the highlight is that you're seeing for our wonderful month of August.
So it's actually, I don't know that the word calm really exists anymore. Comparatively speaking, like now through August, like 13th ish,
Mm-hmm.
It's mildly calm.
Mm-hmm. Mildly calm. That's not.
It's mildly calm. Once we get to like August, like 14th, then we are full on in the waste receptacle. And then once we get to the end of August, like with that, I think we're going to do the first couple days of September at the end here because it's so closely attached. Then like it's clown world, like on acid and meth at the same time, up through like next spring anyway. There's 6
Wow.
to 9 months of, and like if you've looked at the chart for the new year for next year, the March 20th chart, when like the astrological new year starts, it's if you haven't looked, don't.
Oh, I'm just pulling it up right now. So dang, now you tell me.
It's
oh no.
Yeah,
I'm almost terrified.
Yeah.
Wow. So we're gonna have a fun astrological new year next year too. So that's interesting. It's gonna start us off with a bang. So yeah, I see that.
Sun Neptune exact conjunction.
Jupiter Uranus.
And north nodes there also, and they're sextile to Uranus, sextile to Uranus.
And to add it all off, we have Venus and Saturn also conjunct. Well, and I mean, it's a little bit wider of an orb, but Mars, well, it's too wide really, but Mars is in there. This will be fun.
Yeah.
That would be a very fun new astrological new year for us.
Yeah. Interesting.
So what did I already ask you this? What our highlight for this month is in August?
It's the middle part of what did I do there? It's the middle part of August is the highlight or low light, if you wish, of the month. So I can't help but put out that's also when the DNC convention is that week, right?
Is it really? Oh wow. And that's a big one because of all the things that have happened. It's like, if you go back and listen to our, not that you want to, but if you do, you go back and listen to our video from last month, we were talking about the Algol Uranus Mars conjunction, and that was the day before. Was that the day before Trump got shot, and then a couple days later, was it the day of that
the following weekend, the following Sunday, then Biden said he wasn't running. So so anybody, every once in a while I see people say that like, oh, this is all just the normal stuff. It's like, really? We almost had 2 presidential candidates taken out within 8 days. So
yeah, I don't think that's normal.
If you're thinking the Mars Uranus Algol stellium didn't do anything, when's the last time ever that happened? When 2 presidential candidates have almost been taken out within 8 days of each other.
And the crazy part is that Mars Algol Uranus was right on Trump's midheaven, right? And it was opposite of Biden's sun. So it was asking and hard. Like, I think it was all partile to both of them. So, I mean, and Algol, in a sense, a traditional sense, is the thought of the head of Medusa. So it is the idea of, something to do with the head. Sometimes they say it's beheadings too, right? So, I mean, Trump got shot in the ears. I mean, he was really lucky. But you can't get much closer to beheading than that in modern days. It's not like we go around beheading people these days, at least intentionally.
And that was square Trump's Mars also.
Oh yeah, it was. It was square his Mars, but right is a partile to his midheaven too. I think it was a partile conjunction to his midheaven. It's like crazy.
And then also it was opposite Biden's Mercury also. So that's the cognitive issues.
Yeah. So it's really wild. I mean, you can't make this astrology stuff up. And I wouldn't have predicted something like that. In fact, if I would have predicted something, I don't like to predict things, especially when it comes to negative stuff. I try to be hopeful in that realm, although I'm realist too. I would have thought something might have happened to Biden just because of the configurations opposition to his son. But no, it happened to them both. It's like wild. You just can't make it up though. It's really wild. Yeah. Okay, so let's get on to August. Let's start talking about what's going on in August. You said it's going to be kind of vanilla in the beginning of August, so that's actually not a bad thing. Although, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what August has to bring us. I'm looking for, okay. So first off, I'm going to put the aspects. They're written in the description, but I'm also going to put the aspects, show them at the bottom of the screen so you guys can see them as well. The number is the day of August, and then of course the aspect follows. So on the 2nd, we have Venus squaring Uranus, and that happens at Leo Taurus. So Venus squaring Uranus, that always makes me think about like quick love affairs, quick fun, excitement, not too much, but not something that's going to last. Like I tell people, if it's going to be a Uranus Venus thing, have fun. Don't expect it to have longevity. You know, what are you feeling about Uranus, Venus square Uranus?
Yeah, so Venus square Uranus. So I'm sure I said this before. When you have a Venus is never going to tell Uranus what to do. Venus can only suggest things to Uranus. So Uranus is the bigger player there. So when you have Venus square Uranus, while squares are difficult, it can also unlock potential. So normally what you would get with Venus square Uranus is like sudden surprises, like financially or something. And a lot of times there's like more than, a lot of times there's more than one. Like maybe your car breaks down, you get a car repair, you have to pay for, but then you get a raise at work. Or so it's like a lot of times there's multiple things to where like there's a lot of dancing around and jumping through hoops, but you kind of end up like in the same position you were before. There's just a whole lot of ground you navigate to get to that spot.
Yeah, I can understand that. There's a lot of maneuvering to get to that spot. Yeah, and sometimes it's like you said, surprises do come up. That's the Uranian energy to it. By the way, I wanted to mention for anybody that doesn't already know where you guys can find us online. You can find Mark on social media. Just look up his name, Mark Metheny. I'm going to put on my website, I haven't put it yet, but I'm going to put links to all my friends on my website so they're easy to find too. But you can find me too at starlenebreiter.com. I also teach astrology. I teach vibrational astrology. If you're interested in learning that, you can check out my website, Sirius, spelled like the star, SIRIUS, astrologyschool.com. I have classes that are starting up in like mid-September. So if you're interested in learning, check that out. But yeah, we both do consultations and stuff too. So of course you can always visit us there. And the last thing I wanted to mention is something I'm doing. I'm one of the organizers of the Cosmic Patterns Conference that is going on in March. It's an online conference that will be in October. Sorry, I don't know why I said October. That will be in March of 2025. So I think 7 to 9. It's an in-person conference in Orlando. And it'll be great. We're going to have a lot of great speakers, a lot of astrologers that are well known. And I'm excited because I'm going to get to be part of that, not just as an organizer, but I'm also speaking there. So check it out. The cosmicpatternsconference.com is how you get to that website. And this month I'm getting the honor, well, this next couple of months, I'm getting the honor to be able to interview the speakers on the Cosmic Connections podcast. The first one will roll out this evening. That I'll be able to, myself and two of the other organizers, we're going to be interviewing each one of the speakers, which would be really nice. You'll get to know them. We have some big speakers that are going to be there. So you'll definitely want to check that out. I wanted to mention that as well, because sometimes I forget to do that. So yeah.
No, you got a good list of speakers there for.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. Like, I'm so grateful to have gotten to know Faye Cochran and Christopher Prudham's my partner with the Cosmic Connections podcast, and it's so fun to do that, and then getting to know all the speakers. It's exciting. It's really exciting. So yeah. So it'll be a fun conference. Yeah.
Great.
So let's get back to, and we can see what's going on then as we get closer to March, how that conference date looks. But yeah, let's move on to August here, since we're still in August. The next thing we have on the 4th, Venus does make its move into Virgo, and that's, I don't know. Do you think Venus is happy in Virgo? I think Venus is maybe not.
No, Venus is not
Yeah.
happy in Virgo.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So my what's the word I want? My suggestion for Venus and Virgo is like make constructive changes and not just Virgo everything to death. Just make sure you're
Virgo everything that I laugh because I know what that means. Virgo wants everything to be perfect. They want everything to be
right.
pristine, and that can feel like, to outsiders or even to yourself if you're doing it, like you're being a perfectionist, right? That's kind of what I take Virgo as, like. And I don't, or nitpicky. It can feel kind of like that, although I don't think Virgo intends that. I think it just might feel that way because they want everything to be perfect, and yeah, right. That's the energy of Virgo. I mean, you have the Pisces energy in you, and so the Virgo is opposite of that. So you probably know that energy a little bit better than I do. I have no planets in Virgo or Pisces.
Yeah. So it's like the proper way for Virgo and Pisces energy to work together is Pisces excels at the big picture stuff. So you need to Pisces a situation first. You need to look at the big picture and see what needs fixed. And then you kind of, mentally flip the switch. And once you figure out what area needs attention, then you can unleash the Virgo on that area.
And whittle it down to what's needed. Yeah. That's a good way to look at it.
Then you can let your inner Virgo out to fix the minutia. But you often need to flip back and forth between the Virgo and Pisces energy to make sure that you're not just lost in the weeds, that you're working on the right area. And the Pisces energy can get too flighty and like not even be attached to the earth. So the Virgo energy helps balance that.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to talk about that in a couple of weeks when we get to the middle of August.
Yes, we definitely will. We'll get there. So on the 5th, we have Mercury station retrograde. We're so excited about that. I have had the worst phone experience over the last 2 weeks. Actually, I shouldn't say that because it's been nice not actually being tethered to a phone. So tomorrow will be 2 weeks that my phone issues. I've had to send one back twice now. So I have ways to communicate, just only if I'm on Wi-Fi. So yeah, I'm enjoying the shadow of Mercury retrograde. Everybody loves the Mercury retrograde. So that happens. Do you have any warnings or tips for us for this Mercury retrograde coming up?
So to start, I guess to back up what I just said about Venus and Virgo, because Mercury is going to station conjunct Venus and Virgo.
Oh.
So they're going to be conjunct there with Mercury retrograding, and the exact conjunction will be, I think, a couple days after the Mercury station. So again, so Mercury rules Virgo.
Right.
So again, that the mental processes speeding up. So too, this is kind of a build up to the mutable T square there in the middle of middle of August, because Mercury's going to move into Virgo, and then it's going to retrograde back into Leo, but Venus will be in Virgo, and then Saturn will be in there. So in Pisces, and Mars will be approaching Jupiter for the exact Mars Jupiter conjunction in the middle of the month. So you can see the things like at that point, you can see the things like starting, like once Venus enters Virgo, that line up, that mutable grand square in the middle of the month will start taking shape where like the planets will at least be in the signs that they're going to be for that mutable T square. And it's a mutable grand square on one day when the 14th, when the moon's in Sag, it'll actually be a mutable grand square for that day. Then the moon will move out. Yeah, then the moon will move out, and it'll be Virgo, or Venus and Virgo will be the third leg of the Pisces Gemini square.
Yeah, so it's like all of the planets that, they're shifting into coming into that mutable T square, and you said it's gonna, with the moon, it's gonna be the grand square in that one time. Yeah, that makes sense. So when on the 5th, Mercury is just stationing; it's not actually retrograde on that day, right?
Well, it's after.
Oh yeah, on the 14th, it retrogrades, I think.
So after 12:56 a.m. on the 5th.
Oh.
It's still stationary at that point, but that's when it starts retrograding.
Oh, I got it. Yeah, I thought, because I was looking at the list and I thought, oh, it says Mercury retrograde enters Leo, but it's actually just going backwards into Leo. I see what you're saying, on the 14th. So yeah. So the 14th is a super busy day. Well, super busy, I don't know if that's the right word, but as you were just talking about the mutable grand square that happens on the 14th, Mars conjuncting Jupiter, kind of inflammation of thoughts, information, not of thoughts, of action, maybe even being frustrated or something like that. Mars conjunct Jupiter can be a little bit, getting things, blowing things out of proportion, possibly. That could happen as well. But as you said, there is the moon, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn in that mutable T square. And that is at 16 degrees of the mutable sign. So if you have any planets around 16 degrees of the mutable signs, this will be hitting you more than it will be hitting people that necessarily don't. So affecting you. So what is your interpretation of all that?
So this is such a big configuration. I think we almost need to break it down into bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, really. Let's do it.
Okay, so we have the Mars Jupiter conjunction in Gemini.
Right.
So Mars likes to go really fast, especially in Gemini. Jupiter is about expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have the good part about Mars conjunct Jupiter and Gemini will be you should have lots of energy, maybe too much energy. You should be able to fix things quickly, move things quickly. You're probably almost going to have to slow yourself down a little bit so that you're not doing 97 things at once and getting sloppy. But you can make a lot of progress in a short time with that. So the difficult part of the Mars Jupiter conjunction is you mentally spin out of control because your brain's going too fast. It can be just like, it's like continuously just starting things over and over again.
Yeah.
And like not necessarily finishing. Like you can get short things done, like quick things done, but like things that take like additional research or focus on may be a struggle at that time.
Yeah, that's a good point. It can be, like you said, a little bit of a struggle there. Yeah.
And so,
what were you going to
so
say?
then so both of those are going to be square to Saturn. So Mars and Jupiter and Gemini want to go really fast. Saturn Saturn is, regardless of sign, wants you to slow down. So you
Right.
got two planets wanting to go really fast, and the most powerful planet out of those three is Saturn, and it's wanting you to slow down. So just another thing I've seen on social media a lot lately, well, last several months really, is people like, I don't know what day it is, I don't know what time it is, I don't, I can't keep track of, when and where things are, yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
So that is Saturn rules time. Saturn is structures. It's also like how our reality, our world is set up. So Saturn in Pisces is kind of a lack of structure to time. It's kind of things just the train's on the track, but like several of the wheels are off. Several of the wheels are off the track. The train's kind of on the track, but it's things are very wonky and wobbly. And I think one of these last few months we talked about how like the legal system, like with Saturn and Pisces, the legal system is at an extreme great detriment and disadvantage.
Yes.
Pisces does not really go well with the legal system.
Right.
Kind of, yeah, like Pisces is.
It melds things into everything, and there's a no boundaries type thing, and I think that we see that obviously with our legal system and our, at least in the United States, our country in the state that it is right now. Yeah, it really is. And yeah, I always think about Saturn and Jupiter. So when Saturn Jupiter made that conjunction in 2020, it was right on my sun. Yeah, it was right on my sun, in a partile conjunction of my sun. But I always think about Saturn and Jupiter as planning. But when we throw in Mars there's this impetus to trying to rush to do it. So like slowing down, like Mark was saying, taking a deep breath and trying to do things in a way that isn't necessarily rushed, and then there's the feeling of rush, but also maybe not getting as fast as you would like to get there, even though you're rushed, so taking that time. And this, I mean, I don't know how long this aspect wouldn't last forever, really super long time, because it is Mars moves quicker, but Jupiter and Saturn will be in aspect to each other for longer because they're slower moving. But yeah, definitely that is a time mid-month that we're going to have to kind of take our time, take a deep breath, know that it's going to unfold, just not be impatient if you can with it. Yeah.
And so Mars square Saturn has an element of frustration with it.
It does,
because the Mars is wanting to go fast, and the Saturn is wanting you to slow down. So Mars is gonna, and Gemini is gonna want to do all these 3D things really quick, and Saturn and Pisces is like, hey, you don't even know what planet you're on. How can you go? How can you go run all these errands when you don't even like know where you are?
Exactly.
And so so the Jupiter Saturn square is, I think we can pretty plainly see that that's financial.
Right. Right.
Just lots of restaurants and businesses and things closing or slowing down. Like every business I've seen, like in the stock market and stuff, like their second quarter sales were below expected. It's
Mm,
just the economy's really slowing down at this point.
yeah,
And
it
it's going to
really is.
stay there with that Jupiter Saturn square because Jupiter is free flowing money, Saturn is restriction, and
Right,
Saturn's going to overpower Jupiter.
right. So there's a there, yeah, and it gets to be needing a restructure of sorts, and that isn't always easy because we depend on other people in the world to live. So if
Right, right,
things are globally messy, it's hard to be, and that's on a global scale, which it is, which that's what we're seeing now. I mean, in the United States too, is it's quite that way with all of our given situations that have been going on. It's just been difficult. But I think the best way to move forward is try to keep yourself as balanced as possible, not to let your feelings kind of like go away with themselves, and not to get too frustrated. And also just keep trying to. It's a time. It's a phase when, when I talk to clients, I always tell them it's a season, if you will, that it's like not easy, but if you wade through it and just be patient with yourself while you're going through it, you'll move through it and things will shift. But it's definitely something to think about. And that happens, that is all going on right when Mercury goes retrograde back into Leo too. That actually happens on the 14th. So if you have planets in late Leo, then Mercury will be going over those planets, or Aquarius, late Aquarius. That Mercury retrograde is going to be opposite of your signs. I mean, any of the fixed signs, late degrees, it's going to be affecting. But it just kind of like enhances the already like frustration that can happen with the Saturn, Mars, and Jupiter situation.
right. And so too, then like the next part of that is like on the 14th, Venus is almost at 13 degrees Virgo. So that's making a square to Jupiter and Mars and an opposite to Saturn. So
Yeah.
Venus square Jupiter, again, squares can be potential, but also usually they have a lot of energy and there's adjustments and things that have to be made.
Mm,
So, and with Venus, Mars, and Jupiter all being in signs that are ruled by Mercury, this is people's central nervous systems are going to be completely out of whack. And I would
yeah.
guess that people's sleep patterns are going to be screwed at this point because their brain's going to be going 8 billion miles an hour. And of course, we're going to, uh, I'd say, a extremely key point for the middle of August is I think it's okay to observe Clown World, but I would try to stay out of Clown
Yeah.
World because
Yeah.
Clown World has no peak. It just continuously gets clownier. There are additional clowns being born every minute. So I think what we're going to see, and with I'm not, I am far from convinced that the two presidential candidates we think we're going to be voting for on November 4th, uh, I'm not sure that either one of them is who we think it is right now. I would I would be less than stunned if one or both of them were not present on November 4th. I mean it's possible they could be out there, but I would not be shocked if one or both of them is not getting voted for on November 4th.
Interesting. Yeah, I need to look more at Kamala's chart. I haven't looked too much at her chart. We have a good time for her, right? Is there
Yes, we do.
time? Yeah. I mean, I've looked a lot at Trump's chart just because he's been, running as president
for 8 years.
Yeah, but Kamala, I just not as much because she is the vice president, and I wasn't expecting her to run. That was just not really what I expected. But yeah, definitely things are shifting, and I feel like not what you expect them to be is a good way to put that. So
yeah. with the Venus opposite Saturn and square to the Mars and Jupiter, that can be changes in relationship. This is the part that's in secret code. There can be changes in relationship status during this time, and I'm not necessarily referring to your personal relationships. Like Venus opposite Saturn can be authority figures and people in control. So Venus opposite Saturn and square to Mars and Jupiter means there could be changes in people in prominent positions.
Changes in people in prominent positions. Yes. Interesting. And we wonder what those changes could be. I mean, there could be a lot. The 19th is what he's talking about. And I know we kind of skipped around a little bit in terms of the aspects, but we're putting them up on the screen. I'm putting them up on the screen as we talk about them. Also, you can look at them down below. I've put them in the description, so you can just look at those. But yeah, I mean, I think that this has potential for things to shift big, especially because on the 19th, not only is this Venus square Jupiter, and then also Venus opposite Saturn, going on the 19th. Then we have the full moon, and we also have the sun squaring Uranus on the 19th as well. So we've got a lot.
But all those, like the Venus opposite Saturn and square Mars, those are all active on the 14th and 15th also.
Oh, yeah.
That's the exact there.
Exactly.
And also, like on the 14th, the moon is in the middle degrees of Sagittarius. So just still, like on the 14th, you've got the moon involved there. So that the moon and mundane events, the moon rules the public. Like in a sporting event or an election or something like that, the moon is the public, the betting public.
Are you
so that?
No, I'll let you finish.
Yes. Before you ask your question, the answer is going to be yes.
I knew it. You read my mind. I knew the answer.
So that makes for the 14th, there's a mutable grand square.
Right.
So that Mars and Jupiter is opposite the moon. And so when you look at, this is tiring doing all the dancing around without saying words. The person who's not president now, but the person who is the 45th president, that mutable grand square is going to hit in his chart.
Oh.
Okay, go ahead. Ask your question.
My question, I was going to say, do you think there is going to be another person for the Democratic side of the ticket? Do you think that, like, someone in California, perhaps, that is working over there, possibly being a person running? Because I've wondered that too, looking at his chart, Gavin Newsom's, who I'm talking about.
Right.
But yeah, I wondered.
He has the best chart of anybody on the Democratic side as far as transits for November 5th and
Yeah.
January 20th of next year, which is inauguration day.
Yeah.
So and you know, that could just be he's happy with the results.
Right.
Or
It could
he
be
gets a cabinet position. It doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't. Oh God.
we should do a show on Rumble.
I'm not
So we
saying
can
that
talk freely.
Huh?
We should do a show on Rumble so we can talk more freely.
Yeah, no, I'm totally on board with that. I'm not saying that Gavin Newsom will be number 47, but I'm saying if he ends up being put in the position to run to be 47, I will be 100% not shocked.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other chart that is of interest, I think, on the Democrat side is Pete Buttigieg.
Oh yeah.
Because his sun is 29 degrees Capricorn, and that's where Pluto's going to be on election day. Pluto's going to be conjunct his sun.
I did not know that. What year was he born? I never looked at his chart, but I did know that he was Kamala's pick for VP, I think. Or maybe like that's what people were speculating.
That's
you know, that's wonderful because we can have all the trains derail because he's great at that, right? Did I say that?
Yeah, he's
I wish I didn't know about politics so much, but you can't help it. It's in your face these days.
Yeah. Now, he was born in 1982.
Oh, he's younger than I thought. Oh boy.
So he's got sun at 29 Capricorn. Oh man. He's got conjunct Venus at 2 degrees Aquarius, and it's retrograde. And then he's got Uranus at 3 Sagittarius. So he's oh God.
Wow.
He doesn't have a great chart, but he has a powerful chart. And he's got a lot of big, I mean, just because if you look over the next couple years, I mean, he's going to have Uranus trine his Venus, Uranus sextile his Uranus, Saturn and Neptune trine to his Uranus, Neptune trine his Sun, Saturn trine his North Node. He's got a lot of really big, super powerful transits. I would not be shocked if he's not the VP for the person who's there now in the Democrat Party. I would not be shocked if it was Harris and Buttigieg, or if it was Gavin Newsom and Buttigieg. I would not be shocked at any of those. I'm not buying the Josh Shapiro speculation as VP. I'm not really buying that. I've not looked at his chart, but there's certain boxes that he doesn't click.
Right. And
see if that flies through.
Buttigieg is, I'm not sure if I'm enunciating that correctly. He's been molded. Is that the right word? No, there's a better word, but I won't use it. I don't know. Did I say that? To be a certain, and
right.
wasn't he a representative in Ohio? Was it Ohio or Illinois?
He was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana.
Oh, that's what it was, Indiana. I knew it was one of those states up there. Yeah. And that's when they had that train derail when he was the mayor, or
no, he was
Department
of South Bend. Yes, Department of Transportation. when he was mayor of South Bend is when they had the trash problem there. But they couldn't get the trash. They had a sewage and waste problem. The train derailment was in Ohio, like 2 hours east of me.
Oh, right. And that was 2020 when he was
right, head of the Department of Transportation.
Right. That was before he was the mayor. Right. Yeah. I just had my wires crossed in terms of dates. But yeah, that was not good. That was when all those forever chemicals spilled, right? And wandered into the soil. That's great. Those are not really good.
Which has been conveniently forgotten by the mainstream media.
Not by me. I didn't forget that, but I don't live up there. But I remember weird. Is that the right word? I remember unique things that happened that, anyway.
So just to equally pick on, but boy, speaking of derailments, I've derailed this entire show, I think.
Whatever. We're all living it. So like, it's okay. It is astrology related though, because hello, we're living in this world right now.
So just to pick on both sides equally, I want to make sure that people know that J.D. Vance's chart, who is from Ohio, J.D. Vance is like an hour and a half, born like an hour and a half away from me. His chart does not go well with 45's chart. It does not.
Yeah, I saw that. I actually noticed that.
Horribly with it.
Yeah, it's more like one would be, I don't know, maybe dictating to the other or something like that.
Well, the way with J.D. Vance's chart hits Trump's Leo planets in his 12th house. He could be responsible for something negative.
And that's terrifying. It really is. Yeah.
He could be.
Clown World. So, a list of clown worlds. Is this what we're doing?
Clown World has no peak.
Oh, that's a really good. Doesn't. I don't know.
Right.
two birds or one bird, two wings of the same bird. Is that something like that? Yeah.
So I'll just leave it at, I don't think we know who the presidential candidates are that we'll be voting for on November 4th yet.
Very interesting.
Very open to change, or could change shortly after the election also.
I mean, that could happen.
Because anything that we think we know right now is going to change that second week of August. Like everything's up for debate at that point. Anything could change that second week of August.
That second week of August. That's some crazy times. So let's go back to the astrology.
Yeah, let's go to the 19th. I'm going to shut up.
Let's go to the 19th. Okay. 19th, okay. We've got, well, we talked a little bit about this, but we've got the Venus square Jupiter and then Venus opposite Saturn. But we did talk about that. And then again, we have Sun square Uranus, and that happens right before the full moon. The full moon happens, right after that. I'll put the full moon in there.
So you have to look at that.
Oh, and Jupiter's squaring Saturn too.
So you have to, that Sun square Uranus, that's going to be hitting the degree, or within 1 degree of the Mars-Uranus algol stellium. That was at 26 Taurus. That Sun-Uranus square is at 27 Taurus. So the people whose charts it hit in the first time may have some kind of interesting day on that day.
Wow, I didn't even realize that until you just said it. So we have Sun square Uranus, full moon in 27 Aquarius. Well, yeah. And then Jupiter squaring Saturn. And that is, oh, wow. So that's going to be an intense day. The full moon's already, we have it heightened emotions, right? And then having the sun squaring to Uranus on that day, surprises, things that could come about that aren't necessarily expected, and that being it triggering. And we've talked about this in different videos, how there is a reverberation, for lack of a better word, when you're talking about transits and something big happens and then other planets cross over that spot. It's like almost like that original aspect that went on in that degree is like there's a reverberation of it. The things kind of like get enlightened again or getting moved again, especially when we're talking about this going on with a fixed star being there, because Algol is right, like you said, Algol is right there, just a degree away from the opposition. So it's interesting, and it's curious because I know that our current and 45s, our charts are not changing at all. They still have the midhaven and the sun in the same spot, as they always will. So it makes me wonder, if I was their astrologer, I would tell them to just kind of lay low, chill out, not press forward too hard.
Right. That's not a day
For having rally
that I would be out in front of a large number of people. So the things that Starlene's putting up, because this show would be like 37 hours, which is probably more than anybody wants to spend with me. If we went through like every single aspect of every day, this would take hours and hours and hours. But I do just want, just for a frame of reference, I just want to kind of point. So this is the weekend after the Democratic convention should end on Friday, August 16th. But I just want to point out on that Monday, the 19th, that there's a Venus Jupiter square early in the morning. Then the moon is trine Mars. And then there's a Venus Saturn opposition. And then the moon is opposite Mercury. Then there's the Sun Uranus square. Then there's a moon Uranus square, like an hour and a half after the Sun Uranus square. And then we have the full moon. And like the Sun Uranus square, the moon Uranus square, and the full moon are all within like an hour and 45 minutes of each other. That's one day. That's half of one day.
Right.
That's from 2 a.m. until 2:30 in the afternoon. All that happens.
Yeah.
And then in the evening, there's a Jupiter Saturn square, which, even though the exact is in the evening, that it's still 100% in effect at that point. And you've got the moon in Aquarius that whole day, or up until the evening. So that is a day that is filled with continual shocking changes all day long. Like every 2 hours, there could be some big event every 2 hours that day. That Monday, August 9th, it's a nonstop Ferris wheel of degenerate clowns high on angel dust. That entire day is just like, there's going to be some shit that happens on that day.
I know. It's yeah. It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary because it seems like the world has been very volatile, and these are volatile aspects that are coming to hit very, prominent people in the world, their charts. So yeah, it definitely doesn't seem like it's going to be easy. It would be best for everybody to just have like low-key days during the middle of the month. And you said that was a couple days after the DNC too. The DNC 16th.
Yeah, and that's what.
And as we all,
days after that mutable grand square. So a lot of that is still, Mars and Jupiter are still going to be square Saturn. And in fact, Venus is going to move up. And so there's a very powerful mutable T square on the 19th.
Yeah.
Everything is going to change the middle of August.
Yeah. Hopefully there'll be good changes. That's what we can hope for. Hopefully things will be good changes, but definitely there'll be things to watch on TV and to learn about what's going on in the world. Hopefully, I know you don't look like it's like going to be good changes. We can hope. Yeah.
You can observe Clown World without
participating
and staying in Clown World.
Yeah, that's my thing. I like to just kind of like watch from the sidelines. I'm interested in politics, but I don't want to get involved in them physically. I'm interested because I'm interested in them a lot because also you're seeing the astrology play out, which like we saw very clearly last month. So that's also part of it. But yeah, participating in it and doing that, it's definitely not the best day to be out and about in public. So, wow.
So too, just an additional heads, like that's not a day to schedule like 2 doctor's appointments and, going to the laundromat, into the grocery store. That's your schedule is going to be adjusted. Whatever you think you're going to be doing on that day, your schedule is going to be adjusted, even if it's just you can't get to work because there's so many traffic accidents.
Yeah.
And so I would very loosely have that day scheduled.
What day of the week?
If you have a doctor's appointment or something on that day, I would just I'd change that shit now. While you've got, 3 weeks, I would not want to be stuck in a dentist chair or a doctor's office on like August 19th. Right?
Yeah. What is that?
I think it's the mothership sending me some messages.
Oh my gosh.
It's the mothership giving me some
it's coming
coordinates on it.
I think it's coming to get you, Mark.
They're coming to take me away. Haha.
That's hysterical.
Oh, goodness.
Well, it might be better to go ahead and go with it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And don't listen to me. I don't go to the doctors anyway, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Intense. And you know what? I mean, I don't know. Our medical, that's a whole nother story and a 10-hour video, but our medical system is crazy anyway. And yeah, I wouldn't elect to have any kind of surgeries or any kind of election to do anything that is out of the ordinary on those days. Definitely not. The mothership might get you, it can come to your neighborhood too.
And even worse, they may send you back after they're done with you.
Yeah. I mean, that would be, I don't know what, I'd be like, no, keep me, please. Take my whole family though, because I don't want to.
You get the 30-minute lube and oil change, and then they send you back.
Just a prodding, please. Oh my gosh!
I'm gonna pass on the tire rotation today.
Yeah, and as I loved what you said last month when we did this video. You were like, so this is probably the only astrology podcast on YouTube where you have one astrologer with a Neptune on their sun and Pluto The other one was Pluto on their sign. I'm like, that's us. So expect the crazy in the best way possible.
Yeah. So if you question whether we know what we're talking about, I mean, we're both alive at this point with those transits. So that's, we must have followed something correctly.
And Uranus just crossed over my ascendant too, just to throw that in there for fun.
I just have Pluto opposite my moon, Jupiter, midheaven stellium for like the last 4 years.
Right. It's like, oh my gosh, wow, crazy time. So let's move on. We have the 22nd, Venus square Mars. Did we touch on that one yet? Venus square Mars. Venus square Mars is a little bit easier of
I think we talked about that on the August 14th thing, but Venus square Mars is adjusting your energy. Like, think before you speak. I mean, especially with like Venus and Virgo and Mars and Gemini, it's just like, think before you speak. And that's also these days when there's like really bad. So this is how I use astro stuff to like manipulate things. So like if I see there's a day with like really horrible transits or something, like I pick something shitty that I don't want to do. And I like, if I have to clean all the animals' cages one day or cut the grass or, something that I don't want to do, like, I'm just kind of like, I'm going to take all the energy that if I was just sitting at my desk all day would just be building up.
Right.
I try to outlet it on something, what's a negative task that I don't want to do? Let me just funnel the energy into that. Or if you're, laid up and you can't do physical work, then like, let me organize my sock drawer or so, just something, something that you can't create a lot of damage with, but something so that you're, so I guess an addendum to that too is when I see like the difficult transits coming up, I try to head those off early. Like I don't want to have an additional big buildup of energy on top of what is already an explosive energy. So I try to do, a couple days before or a day before or something, try to run off some of that energy just so that I don't have
a buildup of it. Because sometimes you can get kind of
stuck. I don't need to throw nitroglycerin on top of a raging fire. So I try to spin that off.
Right, because like the way I look at it, and I agree with what you said, the way I look at it is that if it's an intense energy that's going to be something that, like you're saying, builds up, it's better to express it, that you're not escaping it. It's just there. It's better to express it in doing something like you said, mow the grass or whatever. I like mowing my grass, but it's also a time when I'm like going to expend energy, right? So there is that. I know I'm a weirdo for that, but like it's just to get the energy out, to allow yourself to be living in the energy, that is present, instead of like maybe sitting at your computer and getting frustrated at something, kind of getting it out on some level. I think that's always helpful, especially when there's intense, things going on. So yeah, I can totally understand what you're saying there. And then when we move on to the 27th, we have the 27th and the 28th are pretty much tied all together. Venus trining Uranus, and then we have Venus, Uranus, Pluto in a grand trine. That's the 27th and the 28th. So wow, a grand trine and Venus, Uranus, Pluto. That seems pretty intense. And Venus is opposite Neptune as well on the 28th. So that would make it a, what do you call that aspect? I forget. Maybe I have to look at it to see.
The Venus, Uranus, Pluto?
Yeah, it's a trine, but then Venus is opposite Neptune too. So that there's, I forget what they call that aspect.
That's not a kite, is it? No. That's
yeah, I think it is a kite. I think it is a kite. Yeah, I think so.
That's probably a weak point of me, is that the bigger aspects outside of the grand squares and grand trines. Like some of the chart configurations, like seem to get screwed up in my head.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
but that there, Pluto's actually not in Capricorn yet, but it's like less than a week from re-entering Capricorn because Pluto's retrograde at that point. So Pluto's at like 004 of Aquarius. So you've got the Venus and Uranus are exactly trine, and they're both trine to Pluto, but it is out of sign aspect. Pluto's not quite back into Capricorn, but it's less than a week from re-entering Capricorn. I mean, it's
yeah, that is a
almost
kite.
at 000 Aquarius.
I mean, and that lasts until the end of the month, and probably even into the beginning of September. It's probably just waning around then, that kite.
Yeah.
So that's like a big deal. And then it becomes like, what is this? A mystic rectangle? I know I'm getting weird with all these words, but they're just different shapes inside of the I don't know if that's what a mystic rectangle is, but that's what it ends up turning into at the end of August, with the moon, when the moon gets involved here. Anyway, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but what are you feeling with this Uranus, Pluto, grand trine, and then Venus opposite Neptune? I mean, we can break it down a little bit, though. I know that's a lot.
So that's a big, if you've got planets at the very end of like Earth or water signs, that can be a time to make a big push. And that's kind of, look, the August 14th through the 20th is just going to be clown world. But if you can stay detached from it and just kind of like, you can look at it, but just don't get caught up in it. If you can keep grounded into, what can I do to improve my immediate area, my immediate surroundings? If you can do that, if you can stay locked into that, you can make, you can make big positive changes, especially you have planets at the end of the, earth signs and some of the water signs. You still have, this is kind of about recovery. Like, so this is going to be a short ramble on Saturn. So Saturn has to do with guilt also, and like family, genetics, people you have DNA connections with, traditions. That's all like Saturn stuff too. But like Saturn can just kind of like have a feeling of like guilt and stuff to it. And I don't even remember what my freaking point was going to be. Saturn. Yeah. So if you can like just like, with all the crazy stuff that happens there in the middle of the month, if you can just like let that go and not like hang on to the shocks to the artificial intelligence system movie that's going on, if you can just like kind of go, not let that bog you down, then you do have energy here that you can, Venus, Uranus, Pluto, grand trine. I mean, that's pretty powerful. Uranus and Pluto aren't trine to each other very often. And that's two of the three outer planets. And then you got Venus in there for a little dash of, short-term good luck. So that could, so you can recover a lot of the losses or things, or things that didn't turn out like you thought. You can if you can not stay stuck in that funky energy from the middle of the month there, you can make sudden reversals for the positive.
Yeah, that's a good point of looking at it from that perspective, because it can potentially be used for something positive too. Yeah, I mean, Pluto has the push behind the other two planets, as you like to say. You know, the more further out the planet speaks to the inner planets. So Pluto is dictating what's going on there, and it's the very, very, very beginning. I think it's at 4 minutes of Aquarius, so almost into back into Capricorn, because it's retrograding. But it's giving the edge to push into change, to something different, and that change would be the other planets, so the Venus, Neptune, Uranus. I think there's also potential with Neptune, Uranus to have a psychic intuition, whether you want to call it psychic or not. I think we're all psychic, so I don't think there's anything, you know, some people might be more developed than others, but, you know, we're all intuitive. We're creatures that have intuition. So that's just part of how life works. So I think there's potential for that too. Knowing things that you might not really already, you know, have a reason to know, if that makes sense. Is that your experience with it?
Yeah, I think so. Where did I go there? Yeah, yes. I'm going to give a one word. I'm going to give a one word answer for a change instead of a 3 hour answer. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. So then we move on. Oh, also on the 28th, Mercury stations direct. So we're getting Mercury out of retrograde. So that was a really fun exploration of Mercury retrograde in August. Hey. Super fun. Yes. I think the aliens are coming back.
They might already be here.
They might. It's very possible. Maybe they're leaving. They're like, forget this place. We're out. It's too funny.
Government says we're here.
Yeah, it's their fault. Then we move on to the 29th of August, and then we have Venus going into the sign of Libra. So Venus is happy in Libra. Venus rules over Libra. So Venus is more pleased than she is in Virgo. Yeah, it seems that's a good thing. And the Venus trine Pluto happens on the 29th as well, in Libra and Aquarius at 0 degrees. That was part of the grand trine we were talking about. And then what is it? September 1st, moving on. September 1st, we have Uranus station retrograde. So those are your expertise, I think, for some reason.
Yeah. So and then I think September 3rd is the Pluto.
Oh, it says the 1st.
I think I mistyped there. That ship.
It's the 3rd.
1 second here. I think it's the 3rd. I think I mistyped there. Okay, so I've got to actually be. This is my fault. I think I mistyped there. So, oh no! Wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. I'm totally stupid. Pluto does re-enter Capricorn. So Uranus stations on the 1st.
Okay.
I did type it correctly. I've been telling people wrong, I think.
So we have Uranus station retrograde on the 1st of September. And we're touching on this because this is, the very beginnings of September. And who knows, with everything going on, if we do it exactly first week in September or whatever. But
we'll go back over this for the September one. But this was so pertinent. I wanted to make sure that, so that Sunday, September 1st, Uranus stations retrograde and Pluto re-enters Capricorn.
And
So that Uranus Pluto trine is really close at that. I mean, it's within 2 degrees at that point. Now it'll get exact late 2025 or 2026. It'll be exact in the air signs after Uranus is in Gemini, and then Pluto is back into Aquarius. So we'll have a direct Uranus Pluto trine in the next couple years. But having probably the 2 most chaotic planets do something significant on the same day. So this goes in line too with we may not know who our presidential candidates are, and that this kind of fits in with that too, because that Pluto re-entering Capricorn for the last 2.5 months of our lifetime, after we get past like November 18th, I think it is, we'll never have Pluto and Capricorn again in our lifetimes.
Right.
I'll
be glad
this is a
moving on.
Very significant, and yeah, I think the whole world will.
And I'm sorry, I don't want to break up your thought there.
No, go ahead.
And from the chart of the United States too, Pluto is at 0 degrees of Aquarius too, correct?
Yes.
I believe it is. So, if you live in the United States, you can see that we are going through massive changes. Probably if you live outside of the United States, you're watching it with your popcorn. I don't know, maybe not. Right. But, we're obviously going through a lot of changes in the United States, our structure of the United States itself. So Pluto is an impetus of that change. It's pushing us in that direction. So, our Pluto return, this is where we're going through. And we haven't yet had one as a country yet. So it's bound to have shifts. And it's really crazy because we are in a very, what's the word, volatile type of situation with regards to our elections going on. As you can see, things have already shifted so much from last month and going into election season this year, which is really wild when you think of it. And Christopher Pridham, he's my partner on the other podcast. He mentioned in the chat too, major changes never feel good, even good changes, and that is so true. So yeah, I agree with you, Christopher. Yep. That's it. Yeah, and Christina also said she appreciates your Facebook posts that say get stuff done before X amount, X day or whatever. So that's always good. You can follow Mark, of course. I'm going to put his Facebook, link in the description so you guys can follow him, because he always is talking about different things that are going on. And as an astrologer, I don't look every single day, but I do try to look at Mark's posts to see at least what is going on. How can I prepare my day? Like have a little insight as to what's going on with everything. So yeah, it's because a lot is happening, and it's like quick. So
I mean, the United States Pluto is 2733 of Capricorn.
Oh, so it's like
so we've gone past the exact Pluto return, but once Pluto goes back into Capricorn, it's only 2 degrees past the exact.
Yeah.
So when you have like a Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, one of those planets, like they move really slow. So it's still within orbit. And I don't think anyone could argue that we're not going through that energy still.
No.
And some of this too is, yeah. So, and two, some of this is like Neptune's at 29 Pisces, which is the very end of the zodiac. Uranus is in the last 5 degrees of Taurus right now. Pluto is going to be, it's been at 0 Aquarius. It's going to jump back to 29 Capricorn. Saturn changes signs next year for a small dip in Aries, and Saturn will be at 29 Pisces, last degree of the zodiac. So I mean, the vast majority of human beings have never lived have never lived through like this lineup, like this kind of a lineup of transits. I mean,
Right.
to find the last Saturn Neptune conjunction at the very end of Pisces or beginning of Aries, you have to go back to like Babylonian era, like 2500 BC. So that's been 5,000 years. 5,000 years since
When were the
Saturn
Egyptians
and
around?
Neptune. Huh?
I'm like, when were the Egyptians around? You know, when they had the pyramids and all
Right.
that.
No.
It's
No,
kind of
totally.
scary
It's
when
totally.
you think about it, because what happened to them, we don't really know. You know, we really don't know what happened to that civilization. I mean, as civilizations rise and fall through the millennia of time. So yeah, it's like wild when you think about it. And we're in a space that's going on like that right now. We're living in it, you know, so it's amazing.
And that Saturn Neptune conjunction is just one part of this. I mean, that's
Right.
with the United States having its Pluto return, and Uranus going to be changing signs. So I mean, to have all four of those happening, and well, actually all five of those, because the Saturn Neptune conjunction, but all four of those planets like changing signs in a relatively short period, and Saturn and Neptune conjunct. And also too, you know, at Saturn's conjunct Neptune, they're both sextile to Uranus, and they're sextile to Pluto right now. So not only that, but all the outer planets are working together.
Right.
On top of.
Right. I always think of Saturn and Neptune. I mean, it can go both ways. You could be like seeking out God or whatever your interpretation of God or that higher self is, or it can be depression and delusion because you're, you know, like drowning yourself in something that you shouldn't be, you know, like drugs, alcohol, whatever, something that maybe is unhealthy. It can go both ways, you know, so always remembering to act in the way that you want to, you know, have the outcome that you want, not, you know, leaning into the escapism part of it, because I think there's potential for that. And that leads to depression if the connection to the higher self, to God, to spirit, which is what I think the higher octave, if you will, of Saturn and Neptune are. It's like, that's what it's reaching for. But if you don't get it, you can slip into something where it's a little delusional. So, you know, and there's that pull and push between the desire for reality, which is Saturn, and the feeling of, you know, being in the like unknown abyss, which is Neptune. So I think both of those really, you know, and that going on is one big major part of it affecting all of us. And of course, that's also being, you know, connected to Uranus at the same time too. So it's like all of these planets are giving us a chance to have a personal change, a change on a personal level, but also on a global perspective as well. So, and it's crazy because it's happening all within, you know, this year. Even into next year, it's going on too, you know, because of the retrogrades and back and forth and stuff. So,
yeah. And it's 2026 before Saturn
makes it
Neptune, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto are not officially into their new signs until when we get to the mid 2026. All four outer planets are in different signs than they are now. There's a whole new configuration. There's Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and they're sextile to Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. And Uranus and Pluto are trine in Gemini and Aquarius. So we move from having all four outer planets in feminine signs now to masculine signs once we're at, a year and a half from now.
Yeah.
Year and 9 months. So I mean, it's a totally different world. There's absolutely a reset happening. And,
I wasn't
good.
aware of that till that they were moving from the feminine into the masculine signs. I interviewed on the Cosmic Connections podcast Leah Imsurgak. I'm probably butchering her name, but she was mentioning that, and so it kind of brought to an awareness and think about how we have been going. Like, I'm definitely think we all should have, as far as humans, we should all have equal rights, but there are, things like men playing in women's sports. I don't think that's fair, but like, it's been this female oriented way that we're working within the society, shifting into a masculine energy with all the planets moving into masculine signs. So there is something to that shift, and it's never easy, but it's a shift that happens. So and it's interesting to see how that's playing out in our world these days, and that's just one example with the men playing women's sports, but there's many other examples I won't really talk about right now. You can guess what they are.
Yeah. No, there is that exact thing happened last night in the Olympics that you're referring to.
Oh, did it really? Oh, see, I chose not to watch it this year because of.
I'm not watching either, but it's all over social media on every platform.
Yeah, I haven't really played around on the platforms yet today. It was just one of those days for me when I got up. But yeah, I agree. It's a lot. It's a lot, and I think it makes us a little bit as a collective, a little divisive with each other instead of trying to work towards a common goal. It makes frustrations, and people get too wrapped up in the, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, and kind of things. It's like, no. How about we just, like, we can have different opinions and still love each other, and that's, I think, been a problem that people have been dealing with for a while now,
And I think that's the part of like the US Pluto return. It's like, I think everyone's having to, watch me dance around this one. Look at their deep-seated belief systems about, like, what's right and how things work, and let's see, what would humans say here? Like rethinking things, and because I think one thing of the Saturn Neptune switchover is going to be, people have different views of our world, and especially with, like, religion and spirituality and how they connect with whatever they see the source at the center of the universe is. I think people's mindsets around that will change, because it's, Saturn, which is our 3D constructs, and Neptune, which is our spiritual concepts, merging at the same degree at the end of the zodiac and at the very beginning of the zodiac. So I think they're trying to clearly show a shift in our consciousness and how we process things.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So we have a couple more aspects we'll talk about for the very beginning of September too. We might not have touched on the Mars square Neptune. Did we talk about that one? Because that one's actually on the 3rd of September.
Yeah. So what?
Yeah, it's building at the very end of August as well.
So, dang it. There we go. Yeah. So, I guess we did. Yes, we did not talk about that because that was not part of the. That was not part of the mutable.
Right.
shindig in the middle of August.
The mutable shindig. That's hysterical.
So
but it's more mutable shindig over here because they're both in mutable signs, Gemini and Pisces, of course.
So it's definitely a shindig.
It's a shindig. I don't even know what a shindig is, but
I think a shindig is a phrase from like the 1960s for like a party.
Yeah.
Or like a concert, like a gathering of people, a shindig. It's a thing.
It's a shindig. We're gonna get down. Yeah. So, I mean, what are you feeling about Mars squaring Neptune? What do you think that's gonna be throwing into the mix with it?
So, under watch me dance around this one too. Under the best of circumstances, Mars square Neptune, like I danced around that one. Mars square Neptune is putting drive or physical energy or inspiration into spiritual things. Having. Whereas like Neptune would be your building your spiritual business, like Mars square Neptune could be like you like physically building the building or rearranging your office. That could be like a Mars Neptune square. Under these circumstances, especially let me just make up a time phrase. Let's just say like the last 4 years, Mars square Neptune has 100% of the time been gaslighting by the mainstream media and trying to throw fake or incorrect news stories up there. So this is a triggering aspect for those who may not be spiritually grounded. So, and to add on to this, not only do we have Mars square Neptune at like 29 Pisces Gemini, but Pluto is back into 29 Capricorn also. So we got 3 planets at 29 degrees, and Uranus is at 27 degrees. So also on top of that,
do you see that in conjunct between Pluto and Mars at the same time? And then, of course, Neptune sextiles Pluto too, all 29 degrees.
You know what? There's, so this is another day that's just really just completely loaded. What did I put on? Because this has so this is 2 days after Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn.
Yep.
It's 2 days after the Uranus station, so the Uranus station is still in full effect. So then there's a new moon in Virgo.
We didn't even put that in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a new moon in Virgo at probably 11 Virgo.
Yeah, 11.
That's actually super late on Monday the 2nd, but that's still in effect there. So they're opposite to Saturn.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's opposite Saturn. Yep.
And Jupiter is still only at 19 Gemini. So Jupiter is still square to Saturn, and Jupiter is square the Sun-Moon conjunction. That's the new moon. So we still have a mutable T-square, and that Pluto's in a yacht. Yeah, there's a yacht there with
I see that.
Mercury sextile Mars, like you said, and the Mars quincunx Pluto. So that gives us a yacht happening there with Pluto and Mars. Um, yeah. So again, that's Mars square Neptune can be incorrectly blaming people for things they didn't do, or I'm trying to tiptoe around all this. Yeah, trying to. You're being pushed to blame certain parties or entities for things that maybe they didn't really do. So to me, there's the Mars square Neptune is deception when there's this level of difficult aspects.
Mm. Yeah.
And again, that new moon is opposite Saturn. So again, too, that's, Saturn is authority figures, as is Pluto at 29 Capricorn. That could also be authority figures too. So you've got, both of those having major aspects going on with those.
Right. So, I mean, maybe keep your tempers, because you're not going to be clear, I think, with the Mars square Neptune. I think
Right.
there's going to be a feeling of your disillusionment, maybe like having a not a mask, I wouldn't say, because it's more like you can see through, but you can't see clearly through it. Like you were looking through like a shower curtain that's like semi-opaque or something. It's not fully opaque. So you can kind of see shapes, but you don't know what it is. But it's like, that's kind of the image that comes to mind when I think about Mars square Pluto. So you're not quite seeing the whole picture. And like you might jump to assumptions or conclusions that might not be exactly right because you're not seeing the whole picture. So yeah, that
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the thought that came to mind.
And Jupiter being the big picture planet,
Right.
and Saturn
Right.
being in Pisces, which Neptune is also big picture. that shows to me that there's deception around what's really going on. So
Right.
I'm just, any big news story that comes out that day, I'm pretty sure the mainstream media is not going to be telling you what's really happening.
Well, I mean, do they ever? I mean, honestly, like any of them really ever tell you this? No, they go by the narrative. Like we know that.
I'd almost guarantee something's going to happen in that area there that's going to be pushed in the direction that it isn't really at.
So a couple more things we'll talk about in September. Just a couple more because they're really early on in the beginning of September and they're relevant. Is as this is going on, we also have Venus conjunct the South Node and Libra. So Venus conjunct the South Node. So you're more into the nodes than I am. I feel like I haven't fully. I understand them somewhat, but you're definitely more of a node person than myself.
Only so much time in a day to look at stuff. Like there's so many. Astrology has so many doors. That,
you can be forever looking at one chart.
Yeah. Right. So Venus conjunct South Node can be like a karmic connection, or that can be somebody from the past coming up, or somebody from a previous life or something that you run into. It can also be because like Venus also is like creature comforts. It doesn't even have to be another person. So and that can be kind of like untapping a latent skill or something that you've kept hidden for a while or something. It can be like letting out like a gift that you have, or like a kind of a lucky spot configuration, kind of like the part of fortune. It's kind of like it's like a lucky spot. Like when you have Venus conjunct your North Node, that can be like if you have a question or something you haven't been able to figure out, and then like say you're organizing your sock drawer or something, whatever, you're organizing your papers, and like you find that like you had the answer like 5 years ago and you had it written down and like forgot that you had it there, and you like stumble upon it. It can be like Venus conjunct the South Node. It can be like sudden like triggering of like knowledge that you already had, or that you had forgotten that you already had the answer to.
So the things that I put away to so that I wouldn't lose them, I might, and then I didn't remember where I put them because I put them away so good.
Yeah,
I'll find them.
right. You put
do you
them
ever
in.
do that to yourself? I'm like, oh, I'm not going to lose this piece of paper because it's so important. I put it away to be somewhere safe, and then I forget where that place is, and then I'm like, I don't know where it's at. I've done that more than once.
Yeah, no, that's totally what that is.
Yeah, and so it comes to you. There you go. And the last thing we're going to talk about for September is Mars entering Cancer. Mars enters Cancer on the 4th of September. So this is an interesting place for Mars to be in Cancer, which it'll be there for what, 2 months? What is it, 2 months?
Oh no, it's gonna be like.
Oh, like 6 weeks.
We've got like 8 months.
Oh, that's right, because it was retrograde, right?
Right. Mars goes through Cancer and then partway through Leo and then retrogrades and then go. So we've got like, normally Mars stays in the sign for 6 to 8 weeks. We've got like
forever.
So what is that's September 4th. So that's September 4th, and it is June 29th of next year before Mars is in a sign other than Cancer or Leo. So that's 9 months. We have 9 months of Mars only in 2 signs. That is a very, very rare occurrence. And if you look at, you know what? We should do a show where I give definitions of all the phrases that I have to make up because we can't say anything on YouTube without getting shadow banned. We're just going to make an episode where I just give like a transcribed key of all the like secret words and coding you have to say to just like not have the show completely blocked.
Yeah, I mean that's the sad part is really
to figure out like what the fuck Mark's talking about.
Well, we don't have freedom of speech, really. Right? And on some level, when you're speaking on a platform, I mean, it's not like you're harming someone, so that would be understandable why they would ban that. But freedom of speech really isn't freedom. We don't really have that luxury, because if you say the wrong thing and the algorithms or AI doesn't, whatever that they're using, doesn't like it, they will.
It doesn't even have to be controversial. You just say certain names or themes.
Yes.
And it's all your views disappear.
It's really something else. I've seen that happen to other creators. I mean, I'm not a huge creator, but you know, like what I do and all that. But at the same time, I see it happening to those big creators, and it's like kind of sad because, you know, the freedom of speech, and then it goes into that, you know, like, is these platforms, are they editorials telling you what to say? I mean, they're acting like it if they're dictating what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say. I mean, isn't that against the rules? I think.
Right. It's like either they're a publisher or they're not a publisher,
or they're in the gray area.
They've used enough legalese to where they can pretend that they're both and neither at the same time. Yeah.
That's big businesses for you. Hey.
So Mars and Cancer and Leo for 9 months straight.
Yeah.
So that hits significantly in the chart of one of the 2 people that are running for president right now.
The one with the Leo rising, right?
Yes, the one that had the
45
Mars Uranus algol.
Yes.
Thing. So I would, not that he's watching this show, But if I were to give any advice, it would be I would remove the Secret Service and I would have my own security team, or at least my own mini security team around me at all times from the middle of August through next spring.
And that's a thing, right? Because how do I say this? Well, what was handled a couple weeks ago when Mars, Algol, and Uranus were conjunct on the midhaven of that person.
Yes, keep dancing.
It could have, yes, it could have. Are you reading between the lines? It could have been different if the SS could have done differently. And you know that one, SS? Go ahead. Think about that. But it could have been different. It could have not happened if that would have been, if that would have been done differently. So you can't help but wonder why wasn't it done differently? You know, you can't help but wonder that. And I mean, like the person or not, you just, you have to see that there's corruption there. Oh God, is that a word I shouldn't say? But there is like things that are not going on that we're not really privy to seeing, which is kind of sad when you think about it. It really is, because we're supposed to be the land of the free here in the US. We're supposed to have freedoms and the ability to be protected when necessary. And that doesn't seem to be what they do always.
I don't, my final prediction on that whole thing is I don't think anyone's going to be happy with the results of the election. Either side. I think once we get into next spring, like say, once we get past that March 20th date of next year, I think everyone's going to see just how rigged on all sides, how just rigged and corrupt the entire system is. I think everyone's just going to be sick of it. And hopefully that's where we can spin all the planets, all the outer planets changing signs, and the Saturn Neptune shift in consciousness. Hopefully that's how we can spin that into the system we had was good at one time. It doesn't work anymore.
No, the corruption has killed it. It's just like, if the corruption wasn't there, different story, but it's insidious right now. You can't not see, if you look at it, you can't not see that, which is that, right? Because what we were founded upon, originally, and I'm not talking about the slavery, because obviously that was terrible. That's never a good thing. But the principles we were founded on as a country were beautiful. Had, they had good, they're not perfect, but they were something that could potentially grow into something beautiful. And it was just set up for potential corruption to happen, which is really what we're seeing now.
Right. And that's that Pluto return energy, just the
Sorry.
I
don't know if you heard that or not.
I thought that was just in my head. Thought that was the aliens calling in.
The aliens appear. I should have answered it. So.
I think just this is all the corruption being exposed, and I've got friends of probably every political persuasion you can think of on my Facebook wall. And I don't think anybody, no matter your political beliefs, I don't think anybody's happy with anything at this point.
No.
I think it's only going to get worse in the next 6 to 9 months. I think everyone's just going to be done.
Right.
So then kind of the question becomes, okay, then what do we do with it?
Right. Can we change it? Can we fix it? Can we rebuild on some level in a way that's better and healthier and more fair? And I'm not talking about becoming I don't even know if I should say that word. a non-meritocracy.
Yeah.
Put it that way. Yeah, the equity thing. I'm not really on board with all that either. So I don't think that's healthy for us.
But
Yeah.
there's no way to do it. It's not logical.
It's not.
There's
Yeah.
no way to.
Well, this is going to be an exciting month ahead of us. We have a lot to look forward to and hopefully hide from.
Hopefully so many things come out. Like since we're already, partway through the dental surgery, it's best to, while you're knocked out and they have the tools in your mouth, it's just best to get, all the teeth extracted while we're in the middle of it, and then hopefully. I don't even know where I'm going with this analogy at this point. I started off with a dental analogy. Now I'm just.
It sounds like Neptune on some kind of like
hopefully
off the wall.
Hopefully we can fix our teeth and not have to go back to the dentist.
That would be
constantly.
Yeah, that would be good. Because dentists.
You know what? We should change the name of this show to Dancing with the Stars because we're talking about astrology. That's a good
idea.
This way we have to dance around every topic so we don't get mad.
Yes, and then we'll call the key video Dancing Keys.
Yes.
So they can figure out what the heck we're like dancing around the words.
I'll be selling my translation guide on Amazon Kindle for $4.99.
That's hysterical. Oh my gosh. And you can just read it while you're listening.
yeah, just read it. What does that mean?
That's funny. But of course, so this was good. This was a good show. I always love doing shows with you. And I think I feel more comfortable every time we talk about it because like I start getting filled in on the keywords too and understand a little better. And of course, I try to keep up with things as well. But a good show, and I'm grateful you were able to come on with me. And of course, Mark does consultations. If you're interested in consultations, I don't think he speaks in tongue or keywords during his consultations. I think he's a really good astrologer. We've known each other for probably a couple decades at this point. But yeah, check him out. I'll have links in the description box where you can find him and, get a consultation from him or, check me out for the same reasons or learning as well. We do these shows once a month to talk about the upcoming astrology for the month, and usually it's at the end of the month prior or the beginning, like the first day of August today. So yeah, this was fun. Is there any last final words you want to give our audience, Mark? Right?
No, I think I've said too much already.
Great for the clown world.
Clown world has no peak. I think that's my message.
That's actually a good message. I had not heard that one before, but yeah, that's actually a good message because it's true. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you.